What happens when a beloved comedian walks into what he thinks is a friendly late-night interview, only to find himself trapped in a psychological ambush, orchestrated by a host with a hidden agenda. Tonight we dive deep into one of the most shocking moments in late-night television history, when Ben Stiller sat down with Jimmy Kimmel expecting the usual promotional banter, but instead found himself facing a relentless interrogation that would end with security escorting him off the set. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, telling me which late-night host you think handles interviews the best, because what you are about to hear will change how you see these so-called friendly chat shows forever. The studio lights were blazing hot that Tuesday evening as Ben Stiller made his way to the guest chair on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The audience was buzzing with excitement, phones recording every moment as the veteran comedian settled into what should have been a routine promotional appearance for his latest directorial project. Kimmel flashed his trademark grin as the cameras rolled, but something felt different tonight. The usual warmth that characterized these celebrity sit-downs was missing, replaced by an undercurrent of tension that Stiller could not quite place. "Ben Stiller, everybody," Kimmel announced to thunderous applause, his smile never wavering but his eyes holding a coldness that the cameras could not capture. "Thanks for being here, Ben. I have to say I have been looking forward to this interview for quite some time." Stiller shifted in his chair, already sensing something was off. "Great to be here, Jimmy. Always good to see you." "Is it, though?" Kimmel shot back without missing a beat, his tone shifting so subtly that the audience was not sure if they had heard correctly. "I mean, is it really great to be here, or is that just something you say because your publicist told you to say it?" The studio fell silent for a moment. Stiller laughed nervously, glancing toward the audience who seemed just as confused as he was. "I am sorry. What do you mean by that?" Kimmel leaned forward, his elbows on his desk, fingers steepled. "Well, Ben, I have been doing some research on you lately, and I have discovered some pretty interesting things about how you really feel about late-night television. Specifically, how you really feel about this show. Jimmy, I think there might be some misunderstanding here," Stiller began, but Kimmel cut him off with a raised hand. "No misunderstanding at all. You see, I have copies of emails here." Kimmel reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. "Emails between you and your agent discussing this very appearance. Would you like me to read them aloud, or would you prefer to explain to our audience why you called my show, and I quote, a mindless circus for D-list celebrities desperate for relevance?" The color drained from Stiller's face. The audience began to murmur, phones still recording but now capturing something far more uncomfortable than anyone had anticipated. "Jimmy, I think you have been misinformed. I never said anything like that." "Oh, but you did, Ben. You absolutely did." Kimmel opened the folder with theatrical flair. "This is from an email dated 3 weeks ago. Your agent asked if you were sure you wanted to come on the show, and your exact response was, 'I am only doing this because the studio is making me.' Kimmel's show is a mindless circus for D-list celebrities desperate for relevance. I will get through it and collect my paycheck." Stiller's jaw dropped. "That is completely taken out of context. If that email even exists, which I seriously doubt, you are twisting my words." "Am I, though?" Kimmel's voice grew louder, more aggressive. "Because there are more emails, Ben. Lots more. Including one where you suggest that late-night hosts like me are nothing more than corporate puppets who have sold their souls for ratings." The audience was now completely silent, the tension in the room palpable. Stiller looked around desperately, searching for some escape from what was becoming a nightmare scenario. "Jimmy, I came here tonight in good faith to promote my film and have a pleasant conversation. If you have some personal issue with me, perhaps we should discuss this off-camera." "Off camera?" Kimmel laughed bitterly. "No, no, no, Ben. You made your feelings about me and my show very public in those emails. I think it is only fair that we discuss them publicly now. Tell me, What exactly makes you think you are better than the rest of us? What gives you the right to look down on what I do for a living? Stiller stood up from his chair, his patience finally wearing thin. I am not going to sit here and be ambushed like this. If you want to have a real conversation, we can do that. But I am not going to be part of whatever this performance is. Sit down, Ben. Kimmel's voice was ice cold now. We are not finished here. Actually, we are, Stiller replied, taking a step toward the edge of the stage. That was when Kimmel pressed a button on his desk, and two security guards appeared from the wings. I think Mr. Stiller needs some assistance finding his way off my stage, Kimmel announced to the stunned audience, his fake smile returning. Unfortunately, some guests forget that this is my house, and in my house, we finish what we start. The security guards moved toward Stiller, who looked around in disbelief. Are you seriously having me escorted out? Because I will not participate in your bizarre attack interview. I am having you escorted out because you are being disrespectful. To me and to our audience, Kimmel replied smoothly. You came on my show under false pretenses, pretending to be grateful for the opportunity while secretly mocking everything I have worked to build. That is not the kind of guest behavior we tolerate here. Stiller shook his head in amazement. This is insane, Jimmy. You are creating a completely false narrative based on supposed emails that I have never seen and probably do not even exist. Oh, they exist, Ben, and they paint a very clear picture of who you really are when you think nobody is watching. Kimmel held up another piece of paper. Should I read the one where you call me a sellout hack, who would not know genuine comedy, if it bit him on his spray-tanned behind? The audience gasped. Stiller felt his face burning with embarrassment and anger. I never wrote that. I never said that. And if someone told you I did, they are lying. So now you are calling me a liar. Kimmel stood up behind his desk, his voice rising. In front of my audience on my show, you are calling me a liar. I am calling this whole situation a setup, Stiller shot back, his own voice getting louder. You invited me here under false pretenses just so you could humiliate me on television. That is not journalism. That is not entertainment. That is just cruel. The security guards were now flanking Stiller, waiting for Kimmel's signal. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every uncomfortable second of what was turning into late-night television's most shocking moment. You want to talk about cruel, Ben? Kimmel's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Let me tell you what is really cruel. Cruel is pretending to be someone's friend for 20 years in this industry, while secretly thinking they are beneath you. Cruel is smiling at industry parties while telling your inner circle that I am nothing more than a late-night television. Parasite. Stiller looked genuinely bewildered now, his anger mixing with confusion. Jimmy, I honestly have no idea what you are talking about. We have barely spoken at industry events. I would not even say we know each other well enough to be friends, let alone enemies. Exactly. Kimmel slammed his hand on the desk, making the audience jump. That is exactly my point. You think you are too good to even acknowledge my existence, unless there is something in it for you. Well, tonight, Ben, the tables have turned. The security guards took another step closer to Stiller, who was now trapped between his chair and the edge of the stage. The audience sat in stunned silence, many holding their phones up to capture what was becoming the most uncomfortable interview in late-night history. Jimmy, listen to yourself, Stiller pleaded, his voice taking on a desperate edge. You are talking like we have some long-standing feud. But we do not. I came here tonight to talk about my movie. If you have issues with me, they are issues you have created in your own mind. In my own mind, Kimmel repeated mockingly. So, now I am crazy, is that it? Not only am I a sellout hack, but I am also delusional. I never called you any of those things, Stiller insisted, his frustration growing. And even if someone told you I did, even if somehow there are emails somewhere that say those things, do you really think this is the appropriate way to handle it? Ambushing a guest on live television. Kimmel walked around his desk now, approaching Stiller with predatory confidence. You know what I think is inappropriate, Ben? I think what is inappropriate is building a career on the backs of hardworking people in this industry, while secretly despising the very system that made you rich and famous. What are you even talking about? Stiller threw his hands up in exasperation. I have worked in this industry for decades. I have collaborated with hundreds of people. I have never built my career on anyone's back. Really? Kimmel pulled out another paper from his seemingly endless supply. Because I have a transcript here of a conversation you had with a reporter 6 months ago. Off the record, of course. But fortunately for me, not everything stays off the record forever. Stiller felt his stomach drop. Jimmy, whatever you think you have there, I guarantee you it is either fake or taken completely out of context. Let me be the judge of that. Kimmel cleared his throat dramatically. When asked about the current state of comedy in Hollywood, you said, and I quote, "The problem with comedy today is that networks are run by people who think they understand humor, but actually have no comedic instincts whatsoever. They elevate mediocre performers to positions of power simply because they are willing to play the game and say what the executives want to hear." The audience stirred uncomfortably. Stiller shook his head vigorously. Even if I said something like that, and I am not admitting I did, that was clearly a general comment about the industry, not a personal attack on you. Was it, though? Kimmel's eyes gleamed with malicious satisfaction. Because the reporter then asked you specifically about late-night television, and your response was particularly enlightening. Jimmy, please. Stiller took a step backward, but the security guards blocked his path. This is getting out of hand. You said, and again I quote, "Late night has become a wasteland of desperate hosts trying to stay relevant by manufacturing controversy instead of earning laughs through actual talent. It is embarrassing to watch grown men beg for applause by attacking easy targets." The words hit the studio like a thunderbolt. Stiller went pale. I never said that. That is not my voice. That is not my opinion, and I would appreciate it if you would stop putting words in my mouth. Stop putting words in your mouth. Kimmel laughed coldly. Ben, these are your words. Your exact words. Recorded and transcribed by a professional journalist. Then show me the recording, Stiller challenged. If this conversation really happened, if I really said these things, then play the audio. Let everyone hear it. Kimmel paused for the first time, his confident demeanor flickering slightly. The recording is confidential, but the transcript is authenticated. Convenient, Stiller shot back, sensing weakness. Very convenient that you have all these damaging quotes, but no actual proof that I said them. I do not need to prove anything to you. Kimmel's mask of control was starting to slip. This is my show. These are my rules. And right now, the rule is that guests who disrespect me and my audience get removed. Disrespect your audience? Stiller turned toward the crowd. I have been nothing but respectful to your audience. It is you who are disrespecting them by turning what should be entertainment into some kind of personal vendetta. Several audience members nodded in agreement, and Kimmel noticed. His face reddened with anger. Do not try to turn my audience against me, Ben. They know who I am. They know what I stand for. Do they, though? Stiller found his voice getting stronger. Because right now what you are standing for is ambushing guests with fabricated evidence and manufactured outrage. Is that really the legacy you want to leave? My legacy, Kimmel's voice cracked slightly. My legacy is 20 years of making people laugh every single night. My legacy is bringing joy to millions of viewers. What is your legacy, Ben? A handful of forgettable movies and a reputation for being difficult to work with. The personal attack landed hard, and Stiller felt his composure finally crack. You know what, Jimmy? Maybe you are right. Maybe I should not have come here tonight. But not because I think I am better than you. Because I expected better from you. Expected better from me? Kimmel scoffed. The man who thinks I am a desperate hack expected better from me. That is rich. I expected professionalism, Stiller replied firmly. "I expected basic human decency. I expected that when a colleague accepts an invitation to appear on your show, you would treat them with at least minimal respect. Respect is earned, Ben, and you lost mine the moment you decided I was not worth your time or consideration." "When?" Stiller demanded. "When did I decide that? Give me one specific example of when I personally disrespected you." Kimmel opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. For a moment he seemed uncertain. Then his expression hardened again. "You want a specific example? Fine. Last year's Emmy, after party. You walked right past me like I was invisible." Stiller stared at him in disbelief. "That is what this is about? You think I snubbed you at a party?" "You did snub me," Kimmel insisted. "I tried to make eye contact. I even started to approach you, and you turned away." "Jimmy, I probably did not even see you. Those parties are chaos. There are hundreds of people, terrible lighting. Everyone is trying to network. If I walked past you, it was not intentional." "Everything is intentional, Ben. In this business, everything sends a message." "So let me get this straight," Stiller said, his voice now carrying a mixture of amazement and disgust. "You orchestrated this entire public humiliation because you think I did not make eye contact with you at a party. You have dragged me through the mud on national television, questioned my character, and threatened to have me physically removed, all because of a perceived slight that probably never even happened." Kimmel's face was flushed now, sweat visible on his forehead under the studio lights. "It is not just about one party, Ben. It is about a pattern of behavior. It is about the way people like you treat people like me." "People like you," Stiller repeated incredulously. "Jimmy, you are one of the most successful television hosts in America. You have been doing this show for over 20 years. You make millions of dollars a year. What exactly is your victim story here?" "You would not understand," Kimmel shot back, but his voice lacked the venom it had carried earlier. "You have always been on the inside. You have always been part of the club." "The club?" Stiller shook his head. "Jimmy, there is no club. There are just people trying to make a living in a difficult industry. And right now you are making it more difficult for everyone by turning a simple promotional interview into a psychodrama." The audience was shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Several people had stopped recording and were just staring in stunned silence at what was unfolding before them. The security guards looked uncertain, waiting for clear direction from their increasingly unhinged boss. "You think this is a psychodrama?" Kimmel's voice was getting shrill now. "You think I am being unreasonable? Well, let me tell you something, Ben. Every night I stand up here and try to make people laugh. Every night I put myself out there for judgment and criticism. And people like you sit in your Hollywood Hills mansions and judge me for it." "I do not judge you for making people laugh," Stiller replied quietly. "I judge you for this, for ambushing guests, for creating conflict where none existed, for using your platform to settle imaginary scores." "Imaginary?" Kimmel screamed, his composure completely gone now. "You think my feelings are imaginary. You think my career is imaginary. I think your grievances against me are imaginary," Stiller said firmly. "And I think you know it too. Deep down, you know that those emails probably do not exist. You know that conversation with the reporter never happened. You know that whatever slight you think occurred at that party was all in your head." Kimmel went silent for a moment, his chest rising and falling rapidly. When he spoke again, his voice was barely controlled. "Get him out of here! Get him off my stage right now!" The security guards finally moved, each taking one of Stiller's arms. The comedian did not resist, but he did not stop talking either. "This is what you have become, Jimmy. This is your legacy. Not 20 years of comedy. Not making people laugh. This moment right here, where you had a guest physically removed because you could not handle an honest conversation." "Honest conversation," Kimmel sputtered. You have been lying since you sat down. I have been defending myself against accusations. You cannot prove, Stiller replied as the guards began to escort him toward the wings. There is a difference. The emails are real, Kimmel shouted after him. The transcript is real. Your contempt for what I do is real. Stiller stopped walking and turned back to face the host one final time. The security guards allowed him. This moment, perhaps sensing that the situation was spiraling beyond their expertise. You want to know what is real, Jimmy, Stiller said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent studio. What is real is that I came here tonight with no agenda other than to promote a film I worked hard on. What is real is that you turned that simple professional obligation into a nightmare. What is real is that everyone in this audience, everyone, watching at home, can see exactly what kind of person you are when you do not get your way. I am trying to hold you accountable, Kimmel protested weakly. You are trying to destroy me because of an imagined insult, Stiller corrected. And the saddest part is, after tonight, no one is going to remember what you accused me of saying. They are only going to remember how you behaved when you thought you had power over someone. The studio was dead quiet except for the hum of the cameras still rolling. Kimmel stood behind his desk, looking smaller somehow than he had at the beginning of the interview. Take him out, Kimmel said quietly, no longer looking at Stiller directly. As the security guards resumed their escort, Stiller called out one final observation. You know what the really tragic thing is, Jimmy? If you had just talked to me like a human being, if you had expressed your concerns professionally, we probably could have worked through whatever misunderstanding exists between us. Instead, you chose humiliation. You chose cruelty. And now everyone knows that is who you really are. The guards led Stiller into the wings as the audience sat in stunned silence. Kimmel remained at his desk, staring down at the papers he had used to justify his attack. When he finally looked up at his audience, many were no longer looking back at him. We are going to take a commercial break, he announced weakly, his famous smile nowhere to be found. As the cameras stopped rolling and the audience began to murmur among themselves, it was clear that something fundamental had shifted in that studio. What had begun as a routine celebrity interview had devolved into a shocking display of petty vindictiveness that would be talked about for years to come. The man who had spent decades building a reputation as America's affable late-night host had revealed something much darker underneath, and there was no putting that revelation back in the box. The security guards released Stiller once they were backstage, both looking embarrassed by their role in the spectacle. One of them actually apologized as the shaken comedian gathered his composure and prepared to leave the building, knowing that he had just witnessed and survived one of the most bizarre attacks in television history. So what do you think about this incredible confrontation? Was Jimmy Kimmel justified in his attack, or did he cross a line that should never be crossed in professional entertainment? Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments which late-night host you think would handle a situation like this with the most class and professionalism.